Hello and welcome to Show Up, Stand Out, an online visibility series for entrepreneurs. I am delighted to have a very special guest for you today. I want to introduce you to Michelle Mazur. Hi, Michelle.
Hello.
Michelle is all the way from Seattle. She is a speaking strategist, and we're going to discuss the importance of public speaking in your visibility strategy. So this is just so on the money, this topic. I am delighted. Michelle, maybe we'll start with you introducing yourself. You're probably going to do it so much better than me. And tell us a little bit about your background and your story.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Dr. Michelle Mazur. I'm the CEO of Communication Rebel, and I'm the host of the Rebel Speaker podcast. And basically, my company helps speakers craft a message that matters so that they get paid speaking gigs. And I've been in the speaking industry in one form or another since I was 15, 16. So I've been doing this for about 25 years. And so I had one of those moments early on in my life where I knew that this was the job for me, or I would end up here at some point in time. So when I was a sophomore in high school, we had to take public speaking, and I was so awkward and shy, and it was
I wouldn't believe that. I wouldn't ever believe that.
I know. Now you wouldn't believe that. And my first public speaking class we were required to take it. The boy I liked was in the class. He sat in the front row, and I just remember being terrified. Like, I got up there, I had the death grip on the podium, my knees were knocking underneath. I think I spit on him at one point in time. Yeah, I never got a date with the boy I liked, so whatever. But at the same time, I sat back in my seat after that horrific experience, and there was just this voice in my head that was like, learning how to do this is important. You need to master this skill. And so that led me to signing up for more classes, being on the speech and debate team, and it led all the way to a PhD. And for a while, I was a professor, and I went into corporate after that, and I was always working with the people giving presentations. Like, if there was an important presentation to give, it was my job to help the person do it better. And I finally, since I'm not a very good corporate girl, I left corporate when I started my blog, and that became a business. And I've been in business now for 6 years.
Wow. So how are you enjoying being an entrepreneur, sort of running your business? Are you enjoying it? Do you find it challenging?
Oh, I find it challenging for sure. So what I love about it is I love the freedom. I love being able to go to the gynecologist and not having to ask anyone if I can go. Like, I don't have to tell my boss about it. I love, setting my own schedule because I have a big need for control and sovereignty in my own life. So I love that part. And it's been this huge growth for me, like getting straight about money and getting good with like asking for money, receiving money, getting really clear on how I'm an expert in the value that I bring to my clients. And that is, that's the results of, that's what I'm charging for. So
how long did it take
huge
you?
Growth.
How long did this process take you? This is an interesting one because a lot of people who are starting their journey, especially if you're female and heart-centered, it's very difficult to get over these money blocks and, the sense of value. But the sooner you do it, the actual business then starts growing. You have to address these things. It's so great that you brought that up. How long was your journey, just out of curiosity?
I would say, so I left my corporate job to go full time about 3.5 years ago, almost 4 years actually. And it's been pretty much the whole entire time because money issues or money blocks and beliefs about money, it's a little bit like playing in America. We have this game at fairs called whack-a-mole. Like you whack one down and another one pops up. So, I feel like it's this ongoing process, but I finally got into this space probably within the last couple of months where it's like, I trust that money is coming. I know the work I do is amazing, and I feel like I'm on solid foundation now with the money, with my money work. However, I know that it's always this ongoing thing.
Well, I suppose, and tell me, when that gives you a very great peace of mind and kind of sense of calm, doesn't it? When you really think about it. And do you notice that the moment you stop resisting and the moment you're accepting the fact that you are, deserving of these things, that these things just start coming into your life and you don't even know where they're coming from?
Oh yeah. All of a sudden, the clients that you want to work with, like, come into your life, and the projects that you're super excited about start happening. And then you start having other wild ideas about the things you can create. And it's really nice to be in that state of flow and ease when it comes to building a business.
I'm following an energy guide called Elizabeth Peru, and she Elizabeth this year, she's saying push less and allow more, because like 50% of what you need to do, the universe is doing for you this year. So trust it. And I feel this year is more than ever. I feel this, that when you actually calm down, you go about your business. Yes, you have taken your inspired action. Yes, you have done things, but don't push. And things really are so easy and natural. And, although apparently it's going to be a challenging year in that kind of respect, to learn to allow. I love this. Yeah. I actually feel this state of flow is where really you want to be, don't you? When you're an entrepreneur, especially a female entrepreneur, because there's so much other pressures as well, and the family and the kids and everything, and juggling everything around. But you want to have some sort of life balance. You can't, you're like, if you're not single, you can't afford staying up all night when you're maybe inspired in the middle of the night. And, there's so many things that are always in the way, but it's just to kind of let it go and be calm and say, you know what, I'm absolutely awesome, and I know everything is going to be okay. If it's not okay, it's not the end. So this is brilliant. Let's go back to the speaking. And so my question to you're doing a lot of public speaking. And so is it virtual or is it offline mostly?
I do both, and I encourage my clients to do both, because I think speakers or people who are wanting to speak get very obsessed with, like, I have to be on stage in front of like a live audience. And honestly, as a speaker, and you're going to love this since you do visibility strategy, you want to be everywhere, because you should be consistent in sharing your message everywhere. So get on Facebook Live, do a webinar, do podcast interviews, do guest blogging. Like, you can share your message everywhere. And that's really how you get traction to be a speaker on a stage, because people get to know you because you're showing up, and then they want you to speak.
That is interesting. I am in a situation where I avoid public speaking in person. I do online public speaking. I'm very happy to do the interviews. I'm very, very happy to do lives. I am now getting into webinars and I'm loving it too. And all this is brilliant. Delivering online courses, I love it. But public speaking, here in Ireland, I am sort of like, guys, you're not ready for all this yet. It's a little bit backwards. So I sort of tend to avoid it. Do you think that it's not really absolutely necessary to do an offline public speaking and you can do it all online?
It's not necessary, but I feel like if you get to a certain level, you're going to start being asked to do it and to be prepared for that eventuality. Because when people start knowing you and they're having an event or there's a conference and all of a sudden they're like, hey, Juliet, we really want you to speak at this conference. We love what you've been talking about with visibility. I see you all the time online, or I've been to your webinar. Come. And then at a point you have to decide, all right, am I going to do this? Am I going to get on stage? But I also know that there are plenty of people who rarely ever speak and have, like, on stage. They're showing up in other ways. but they're having successful businesses.
Yeah, well, I totally agree with you. I think that where I am based is a bit too far from all the conferences, and I'm getting too comfortable in this beautiful office. I don't really want to leave it unless they come in and they take my dog and put it in some lovely kennel and then, pay for everything, and I'll go, yes, of course I'm going to go, and I'll talk to them. It's not a problem. Stage, I grew up being a singer. I grew up being on stage all the time. It's just sometimes when I speak to people, maybe in the local area, they're not really kind of like savvy when it comes to online stuff, so you're kind of talking to people with blank faces. But that's okay. This is interesting. Tell me this, just in this kind of conversation, if do you work with people who have sort of maybe issues or insecurities with public speaking, but they're okay doing it on virtually?
So most of my clients are already comfortable with public speaking in a variety of settings. And I think it's part of my positioning, right? Like I have positioned myself as somebody who's a bit more advanced. Like you work with me when you really want to up your game, get on bigger stages, make more money. And so, and it's funny, like I had a consultation yesterday and she said what about 99% of my people say to me is like, I get a little nervous beforehand, maybe the day before, definitely leading up, but then I get on stage and I absolutely love it. And those are always kind of my sweet spot clients, are the people who are like, yeah, I get a little nervous and maybe like my stomach is a mess, but once I'm on the stage, I love being up there. I love the energy exchange. So that's, those are the people who tend to gravitate towards me.
So, okay, so let's talk about then the message and how to take it. You said something to me that your message, you should think bigger than just giving a speech if you want your message to be shared and to spread.
Yes. So I've had a major breakthrough in the past few weeks, and I am writing a new book called The 3-Word Rebellion. And what I have noticed, because, I'm a researcher, PhD in my past, and what I've noticed is with social movements and with speakers who are, who make a lot of money and who are on a lot of different stages, pretty much what they're about can be summarized in 3 words. So I think about Mel Robbins, and she has the 5-second rule. Simon Sinek has start with why. In America, we have Black Lives Matter as a social movement, or hashtag Me Too, or hashtag Time's Up. And all of those movements are 3 words. And so when you are thinking bigger, you are focused on the change or the result that you're giving the audience, and how, if people take action on what you're saying, how that's going to really impact the world. Because my core belief and my why for what I do is communication changes the world. And if you're just focused on like, how can I get in front of audiences and how can I make money off this audience, it's the wrong focus to have. And you're going to struggle. Whereas if you're building something bigger that people are following you and rallying around, you're going to find that your message spreads.
I think that also brings us back to the money blocks, because when you do anything and you concentrate on making money off this, it puts that pressure and frustration sometimes, and it's like pushing against the wall. So it really is, it's sort of like with any goal that you have, they say don't just think about the goal or even the outcome, think about past the goal. You've done your event, past that, then you imagine yourself relaxing in the bar after. If you're nervous before the event, don't think about it. Don't even think about when you're on stage. Go think past that. So it's sort of like, in a way, it's the same thing. Think bigger than what you're trying to do, and think the bigger purpose that might be behind what you're doing, really. And I think that everyone has a bigger purpose. Sometimes people are caught up in money blocks too much, but really, you wouldn't be doing something even for the money if you don't have that bigger why. Do you agree?
Yes. Oh, I totally agree. And I feel like a lot, like in the online industry, I definitely see it in the speaking industry, that there's been such a focus on, making money, like how do you make 6 figures in 6 seconds, that it has really taken us away from looking at the bigger movement we are trying to create. And what would happen if people took action on what we're telling them? What kind of lives would they have? What kind of impact would they have on the world? And when you start thinking like that, it starts blowing your mind.
Absolutely.
Like, wow. And there's this, I think you just profit through impact, really. Because when you're acting at that place where this is how I want to impact, then I think the money comes.
Absolutely. Money is only the energy. Yeah. When you get your head around that it's just the energy that follows what your value, giving value, and it's just you're being regiven, it all changes. I really noticed that. So tell me about yourself. Let's talk about you and your presence, let's say online, because you were talking also with me about virtual stages and how they play a role landing speaking gigs offline, and you mentioned it earlier. So how about yourself? So what do you do online? What platforms are you on? What is your visibility strategy?
So my visibility strategy is I'm very much doubling down on Facebook, and I also have a podcast. So what I have been doing is my podcast is typically 3 solo shows a month, and then I do an interview. And the day the podcast goes live, I will go live on Facebook and talk about what the content is, hook up a link, and then it's a great way you can sponsor an ad or whatever and get more traffic to it. And then I also go live on Thursdays, and usually Thursdays it's I'm either talking about an extension of the podcast, or I'm talking about a lesson from the speaking trenches, or I am going to start talking about writing the book in a very just kind of transparent way of what does my process look like? What am I working on? How are things going? And, experimenting with that. So really Facebook is the core of my strategy, and the podcast. And then I do I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter, but that's not really my focus. These days I feel like I'm on Twitter mostly to follow what's happening with politics in the United States.
I think you just all have to give up.
I know, because I notice if I get on Twitter and I start looking at it, I'm like, oh, I'm going to be in a bad mood soon.
I find Twitter very difficult because I don't speak in one-liners, and it's very difficult for me to express myself through Twitter. But what about Periscope? Have you? I have
not. Well, when Periscope first came out, I experimented with it, and it was great, and then I kind of went away from it. And then I haven't been back on since. So I was thinking about just trying it and seeing what is it like to get back on Periscope after a couple of years away. But I hear that's a great way to, build a following rather quickly.
Well, yeah, because there is no newsfeed algorithms there as much as we have on Facebook, and especially with the new updates that are rolling out now this year, it's going to be all sort of changing. We don't know, they're saying it's a major change that Facebook's faced for years, so it's going to be interesting. But with the live video, we're still sort of winning it, because it's still going to be one of the most loved way of interaction, because it's interactive. And we have a few people here on the show live. We have Joy, hi Joy, Sonia, and Julie Zanfor. Julie, I messed up your second name completely, but so sorry. But guys, if you have any questions to us before we wrap up about, public speaking or visibility, if you have any questions to Michelle, definitely pop them in the comments and we will address them. So let's just think about it. If you, in terms of client attraction, how is your experience with Facebook and client attraction? Or does it work for your perspective, does it work maybe more as a PR tool? And then
I feel like it is a PR tool for me. It's just about getting known and getting my message out there. Because I find that I get a lot of clients through word of mouth, referrals and people who are listening to the podcast. Actually, the podcast is a great place for me to get clients, because you're in someone's ears. So I can imagine as I start doing more Facebook Lives and people can see me, that will start snowballing the client attraction effect as well. So right now it's just PR growing the audience, but I am, based on what I've seen with my podcast, I 100% believe that people will start wanting to work with me based on the lives I'm doing.
Where do you host your podcast, or? How can
Yeah,
we
so my
find it?
podcast is on iTunes and it's called The Rebel Speaker. And if you go to drmichellemazur.com/podcast, it'll take you right to the iTunes.
That's perfect. Okay, let's just, while we're talking about your website, I wanted to talk a little bit about that link that I have pinned here and a little freebie that you're sharing with our viewers today.
Yes. So the freebie that I have for the viewers, since I believe that communication changes the world, I believe that every speech should produce a concrete result. And the way you get known for your message is by giving your audience a result, something actionable that they can use. Too many speakers don't do that. And if you can do that, you are setting yourself apart. So I talk about the 3 results that you can give an audience and how to pick the best one for your area of expertise.
All right. Okay. This is very interesting. I'm definitely going to check it out. Are they, so are you saying that could be only one, or is it something that you can maybe tap into different,
I always say there should only be one result in a speech. And I'm obsessed with Mel Robbins and the 5-second rule. And what she is doing is teaching people a new behavior. She teaches people, this is how simple her speech is. You count down backwards from 5 and then take an action. That's her entire platform, her entire speech is counting down backwards from 5 and then taking the action you've been unable to take. And that's a very concrete result and it spreads like crazy. And I think when we focus on just the one result, we get clearer with where we're taking the audience and we get known for that.
Wow, this is brilliant. So we're not talking about individual videos here, guys. We're talking about the whole direction of all of your public speaking and your message in general, which brings us to the main kind of message. And yes, and then of course, this is how you attract your ideal client or people that you want to work with, so it's all probably intertwined in that respect as well. I'm looking forward. I'm going to check this out and I'm looking forward to checking it out. Guys, we have a comment pinned, but Michelle, for those people, it's drmichellemazur.com/results. If you're watching this on YouTube or anywhere that you can't see those pinned comments, that's the link. So that was fantastic. I'm delighted that you were able to make it to our show today. And this was just really valuable discussion, I think, about the public speaking and speaking in general. The invisibility strategy, visibility is speaking most of the time, whether you're doing it in a written form or you're doing it in verbal form, it's still all about the speaking and the message and how you connect to people in your environment. So this is something that just has to be taken, as you're saying yourself, it has to be taken from a larger sort of sky level. Have a look at the larger view here and don't get caught up in small things, because as a visibility strategist, I can tell you, you can waste a lot of time if you're doing, let's say, live streams or something, but you actually don't have a bigger picture.
Because there's no point, right? Yes. You don't know where you're driving your business.
That's right. And then you're not getting results. You're not attracting clients because the clients are just confused, or prospects or your audience just confused. What are you actually doing? So this is a very, very valuable advice. Thank you so much, Michelle, for joining me.
You are so welcome. Thank you for having me. This was great.
Thank you, everybody who was watching this live. And I hope you all have a great day. So if you want to follow Michelle, follow drmichellemazur.com. Okay? Thank you very much, guys. Bye. Bye-bye. Good night.